Hello friends, welcome back to another class of SQL, and in this class we are going to see that how to use implicit index. In the previous class we had seen that what is a full table scan, why we perform a full table scan, why full table scan is slow especially when the database gets large. So that is a disadvantage of full table scan because we want to ensure that our output response time is always fast. That means whenever we go for any search query operations, then the output response becomes slightly sluggish in case of full table scan whenever the database becomes very large. So what can be done in order to counteract that kind of a problem? Now we always go for indexing method, and this also we had discussed that what is indexing, why indexing is required. Okay, like what is an index, how it gets created, what is the benefit of indexing, what is the benefit of using index, what are the different types of index, and there are two types of index. One is explicit index, this one we had discussed in our previous class, and another one is your implicit index. Implicit index we will discuss in this class. Okay, so the main purpose of indexing method is to create an index on a column of a table. The main purpose of indexing is to create an index on a column of a table. And what is the main purpose of that? So that we can use that particular index, in order to ensure that our search query operations become faster. All right, that was the main purpose. And I had shown you that how can you create an explicit index, and like using an explicit index, how you can improve your output response time. Okay, these things we had discussed. Now, in this class, we shall discuss about the second classification of index, which is known as your implicit index. As you can see here, implicit index. Explicit index, as the name suggested, is something like we create the index which is explicitly created by the user is known as an explicit index. Okay, and what is an implicit index? Implicit index is such kind of an index which does not get created by the user explicitly. There is no direct intervention of the user. Rather, this index gets created automatically. This index gets created automatically, that is implicitly, that is inherently. Okay, that is what your implicit index stands for. Now, there are two types of implicit index. One is clustered index, number one, and number two is unique non-clustered index. So first, let us come down to cluster index. Again, see the difference between explicit index and implicit index is explicit index is something that has to be created explicitly by the user. So direct intervention of the user is required. But in case of an implicit index, no direct intervention of user is required. This sort of index gets created implicitly, that is automatically, that is inherently. Okay, direct intervention of user is not required. So it has got two classifications. One is clustered index and another one is unique non-clustered index. In the last class, we had discussed what is a non-clustered index. If you remember, we had created this particular explicit index quick underscore explore on the city column of the emp2 underscore 2 table. Okay, city column is a non-unique column. City column is a non-unique column, and we created this index quick underscore explore on the city column. That's why this sort of index is not only known as an explicit index, but it is also known as a non-unique index, and not only known as a non-unique index but also known as a non-clustered index. Non-unique because we created this index on the city column, which itself is a non-unique column. So that's why this index created is also known as a non-unique index, although it will just store the unique values of the city column only. And it is an explicit index which is also known as jointly non-unique non-clustered index. Why non-clustered index? Because the city column itself did not become the index. If you remember, the city column itself did not become the index. The order of the physical storage of the data under this column remained intact. There was no reordering. Separately, this particular index quick underscore explore was created. It was created separately. This particular index, quick underscore explore, was created separately, and it had stored the unique values of the city column in a B tree structure in the form of alphabetical order. Okay, this particular explicit index, quick underscore explore, was basically used to store the unique values of the city column in an alphabetical order in the form of B tree structure. Okay, and then we saw how our query search operation became faster. So that is why the name, that is why, since the city column itself did not become the index, and the column itself did not become affected. Okay, the city column itself did not become the index, and this particular column itself did not get affected, means the order of the physical storage of the data under this column remained intact. Whatever was the order, that only remained. Separately, an index was created. That is why it is known as a non-unique, non-clustered index. Quick underscore explore is known as a non-unique, non-clustered index because it does not affect the city column directly. Whatever was the ordering of the data under the city column remains intact. Whatever was the nature of city column remains intact, and the city column itself did not become the index. Rather, this index quick underscore explore was created separately. That is why it is known as a non-unique, non-clustered index. Now coming down to clustered index. As you know, implicit index is an index which gets created automatically implicitly, and cluster index is a type of implicit index. Now, as you can see, I've written here also, clustered index because it falls under implicit index, the clustered index gets created automatically and implicitly. The clustered index gets created automatically and implicitly whenever we create a primary key on a column of our table. Whenever we assign a column of our table as our primary key, then and there automatically, implicitly, a clustered index is created. And a table can have only one clustered index. A table can have only one clustered index, but it can have multiple non-clustered indexes. Okay, it is because if you remember, in case of primary key, a table can have only one primary key. Okay, similarly, a table can have only one clustered index, not more than that. And this clustered index gets created automatically, implicitly, whenever we create a primary key on a column of our table. Now, if you look into the left hand side, that is under the Object Explorer, then go to class 1 and expand this database, and then go to our desired table emp2 underscore 2, expand it, that is columns, you expand, and then you see the first column. In this table, the first column was your, or is EID. And in our previous classes, when we were discussing about primary key, unique key, foreign key, and all, then if you remember, we had created our primary key on this EID column. We had created our primary key on this EID column. That is, we had assigned this EID column to become the primary key. And a table can have only one primary key. So EID column was the primary key that we had assigned in the primary key class. If you go through, you will be able to understand. Now automatically under the keys, you could see pk01 was created. When we had created the primary key on the EID column of our table and ensured that EID column of the table becomes our primary key, then the name of primary key we had to give, and the name was pk01. That is what is reflected here under the keys, pk01. Now, if you expand the indexes, then you will see that under indexes, this pk01 also appears. That means pk01 is not only your, that means pk01 is not only the name of the primary key, but also it is the name of our clustered index. Okay, and this clustered index was created where? This clustered index was created on the EID column. This EID column itself becomes the clustered index. Okay, so pk01 under indexes, you see pk01, then within first brackets clustered it is written. So that means pk01 is not only your primary key, but it is also your clustered index. Okay, this name we had given pk01 when we had created primary key on the EID column of our table. and EID column, which became our primary key of the table, also became the clustered index. Now, what do you mean by a clustered index? If you select, this was our original table emp2 underscore 2, hit the execute button, you see clustered index means the column itself will become the index. The column itself will become the index. So this EID column, this we had assigned as our primary key, and automatically this column becomes my clustered index. Okay, like unlike the city column, if you remember when we created this quick underscore explore index explicitly on the city column, then the city column itself did not get affected. The city column itself did not become the index. The order of the physical storage of the data under this column remained intact, and the index was created separately. But in this case, when we created our primary key on the EID column, that is assigned EID as our primary key, then this EID column got directly affected. Affected means it directly became an index. What kind of index? Clustered index. Why the name clustered? Because here the order of the physical storage of the data under this column gets affected. Gets affected means gets arranged in ascending order. Okay, all the values under this EID column get arranged in ascending order. In our case, originally for this database, that is for this table emp2 underscore 2, all the values under the EID column were already arranged in ascending order right from the beginning. So no separate inherent operation was required here, but just concept wise, clustered index means the order of the physical storage of the data under that particular column gets rearranged in the form of an ascending order. So all the values under that column, they will get arranged in the form of ascending order. So here under this EID column, already the values were arranged in ascending order, but just for uh, imagination purpose, imagine or assume these values, all these values under the EID column were not arranged in ascending order. They were arranged in some abrupt order. And I1001 suppose was there in the fourth row, and its corresponding records were also in the fourth row. Like, say, suppose the name of I1001 was in the fourth row. Similarly, this address 1 was in the fourth row, address 2 was in the fourth row, city, phone, email, DOB, DOJ, all were in the fourth row. Okay, no arrangement, no ordering was there with respect to the EID column. But as soon as I created the primary key on the EID column, that is assigned EID as our primary key, as soon as we define the primary key on EID column and the EID column becomes the primary key, then the EID column also becomes your index. What sort of index? Clustered index. Why clustered index? Because the EID column itself becomes the index, and the order of the physical storage of the data gets affected directly. That is, all the data under this EID column will get rearranged in ascending order. But that was not the case in case of city, which was on which we created our non-clustered index, because the city column itself did not get affected, and whatever was the order of data under the city column, that remained intact. But not in case of EID. City itself did not become the index, but EID itself becomes the index. Okay, what kind of index? It becomes itself clustered index, and all the data under this EID column will get arranged in the ascending order. So the order of the physical storage of the data gets affected, that is, gets rearranged in an ascending order. Okay, that is why the name is clustered index. Now, as soon as that happens, as soon as imagine, as I told you, just to imagine that suppose the data under the ID column was not in ascending order, and I1001 was in the fourth row and associated records were also in the fourth row. But as soon as the EID column became the clustered index, then and there everything under the EID column would get arranged in the ascending order, and the associated records would also get accordingly and correspondingly rearranged. That means I1001 then would have come up definitely to the first row, and its associated record like Robbie Gupta, if it was there in the fourth row, then it would have come up along with I1001 directly to the first row. The address 1 of Robbie Gupta would have directly come from fourth row to the first row, Address 2 of this particular person, Robbie Gupta, would have directly come up from the fourth row to the first row, and so would the other records like for city, phone, email, DOB, and DOJ. In case of clustered index, no separate index structure is formed. In case of clustered index, no separate index structure is formed. No associated row pointers are formed, unlike the city column where a separate index structure was created that contained the unique values of the city column and that had the associated row pointers also, but that will not be the case in case of this clustered index column, which is our EID column. Here the EID column itself becomes the index. The order of the data gets rearranged in the form of physical in the form of ascending order, and no separate index structure is formed. No separate associated row pointers, no associated row pointers are also formed here. Okay, clustered indexing is faster than non-clustered indexing. This is the reason. So this was for clustered index, which we saw got created implicitly. Okay, implicitly whenever we created the primary key on the EID column, that is assigned the EID column as our primary key, then and there implicitly there is automatically cluster index got formed. The EID column itself became the index, that is it became itself the clustered index. This was implicitly. Now explicitly also we can set or create a clustered index explicitly. Okay, so explicitly you will have to give the command. If you remember how we create an index, now we give the command create index, then give the index name. We use after that the keyword on and then specify the table name, and within the single parenthesis we mention the target column. Similarly here, if we have to explicitly create our cluster index, then follow line number 29, create clustered index. This command you give, and that is I'm directly giving command to the SQL that yeah, create explicitly a cluster index for me. Then you have to give the name of the index you have to give, then this on keyword you have to give, then mention the table name, and within the single parenthesis mention the target column, the column on which you want to make it happen. So suppose I take phone column. Suppose I take a phone column. Now select this line number 29 and hit the execute button. Error will appear. See, an error has appeared. Cannot create more than one cluster index on table emp2 underscore 2. Drop the existing cluster index pk01 before creating another. So as I told you, just like your primary key, a table can have only one primary key. Similarly, a table can have only one clustered index, not more than that. Already in this table emp2 underscore 2, we already have a clustered index, which is our EID column. So a second cluster index will not be possible here. That's why the error message came up. Okay. Now the second classification of implicit index is your unique non-clustered index. Unique non-clustered index. Now non-clustered index already we have discussed many times, and what is unique nature, that also we have discussed many times. So unique non-clustered index, if you look into the left hand side under the object explorer and come down to our table emp2 underscore 2 under the database class 1 and then go up to the phone column, then if you remember when we had created our keys, there was another class where I had shown you how to create a unique key. How to create a unique key. In that class I had created unique key on the phone column. That is, I had assigned the phone column of my table to become the unique key. So under the keys, if you go, UK01 is been displayed here, or at that point of time only it was displayed because some name you have to give. So the name that I gave to the unique key was UK01. Okay, and and this UK01 appeared. This UK01 will appeared under the indexes also. Okay, that class I didn't show you because I was waiting for this index class. So UK01 is not only this UK01 is not only your unique key created on the phone column where I assigned the phone column of my table to become the unique key, but this same name UK01 is also used to create our unique non-clustered index. Unique non-clustered index. Okay, so UK01 is used for your unique key name, and also it is used for the unique non-clustered index name. Why unique? Because the phone column is a unique column, because two persons or two people cannot have the same phone number. So our phone column was already a unique column. Okay, and non-clustered, why? Because the phone column itself does not become the phone column itself does not become the index. Okay, that's why non-clustered. So hopefully you have understood these concepts in this class, and if you have liked this video, please hit the like, share and subscribe button, and press the bell icon button for the notifications. And that's it for this class. Thank you.